Okay, a little bit about financing. Again, we get a lot of calls, and of course, people want to know how can I access money? Well, the reality is, if you're looking to access money through a bank, you're going to have the necessary collateral or assets to borrow against. Again, that's just where we're at with the banks. They're after the 2008 credit crunch, they're pretty tight on their lending guidelines. And lending against the house is one thing, but lending against a business is even riskier. With that said, our businesses are about as secure as you get. There's going to be risk involved with any business, but when it's backed by financing and it's backed by a brand name company, that's going to eliminate the majority of it. But bottom line, with financing, we do have a third party source we can refer you out to. They can write some type of loans based on your personal credit history, so you don't necessarily need the seller's documentation to get approved. What it is a revolving credit line, a small business startup credit line, if you will, and they'll establish that through various banks. They're pretty good at what they do. The criteria, though, to meet this is, you need about a high 600 or 700 credit score. If you don't have that, they will let you utilize a cosigner if you can find one. No derogatory marks within the last 6 months, no judgments or collections, no bankruptcies. If you have a bankruptcy that was 10 or 12 years ago, now that's a different story. You might be able to consult with them on that. Your debt to income ratio is going to have to be pretty low, under 60%. And they want to see that you have already established some type of credit, around $5,000. But we don't really get into the whole financing aspect of it. Again, it's a whole other industry, but we do not mind referring you out to these people. This honestly is the only source we've found. We've done some extensive research, and this is about the only other way you're going to be able to get money, again, if you don't have the assets or collateral to borrow against. So just click on apply for loan. You'll see basically name, phone number, email. Enter that information, and someone from there will contact you and kind of give you an overview. Also, if you do happen to have some type of retirement account like a 401k or IRA, they do have lending programs that will allow you to borrow against that interest-free and penalty-free. Now that's huge because if you're not of retirement age, you would take a huge penalty or hit if you cash those out. So being able to borrow against that is kind of a cool idea. So again, feel free to fill out the form, name, phone number, email. They'll contact you with some more information about this. From time to time, we do get people contacting us and they want to inquire about what's called an SBA loan. Well, if you go to your local bank, and by the way, banks get paid by performance. If you go to a bank now, even the teller is trying to upsell you a checking account. So, I mean, that's where we're at with banks, and everybody's a salesman now. So, yes, the bank will tell you that they can write an SBA loan for any business when you ask them that. So don't be fooled by that. Trust me on this. We do this all the time nationwide, and we have people tell us, my bank told me we only need to see 3 years of tax returns. Well, that's not accurate. SBA loans require a lot of paperwork. They're very complicated. In most cases, they're going to require the seller to hold some type of paper or seller financing for a few years. All the vehicles got to be paid off. There's got to be a sufficient amount of collateral so the bank can, put a lien on those vehicles to kind of guarantee their money. Also, you're going to have to qualify for an SBA loan from a buyer's standpoint too, meaning you have to show tax returns and things of that nature. Now, I'm not saying we can't do an SBA loan, but it's very, very rare. And that's why these companies, for the most part, have established lending at a corporate level. FedEx routes are a totally and entirely different business model. And again, you're going to have the cash pretty much to make that happen. We've had a few FedEx routes qualify for SBA lending, but we had sellers who had impeccable records and kept impeccable documents in order to supply the necessary paperwork. Again, the reality is when a bank gets involved, it becomes a huge paper storm. They require it to be under contract off the market for months at a time while they go through this qualifying process. So understandably, if you were selling a route and if you had potentially cash buyers, you would try to sell to them first before entertaining any type of SBA lending through a bank. And most of our sellers choose to go this route. So don't get frustrated at the end of the day. If the seller is unable to sell, he may at a later date or she may at a later date entertain something like this. But for the most part, SBA loans are not going to be a viable source. This will conclude the financing. If you have additional questions, always feel free to email us.